The main theme of One Piece's Alabasta arc is probably the simplest, most straightforward, unambiguously positive, and kiddie theme any action-adventure story could have. Friendship and trust is cool. It's a story that at its core is about straightforward, basic human virtue that the overwhelming majority of people already practice. But that's far from a bad thing. And in fact, I want to tell everyone out there that the subject matter of a theme is not as important or as indicative of a work's quality as in how that theme is illustrated in a text. And to begin analyzing why Alabasta is so detailed, it's best to start with our big bad Sir Crocodile, because he's the antithesis to our kiddie theme of trust. Crocodile is a secretive, skeptical, jaded, pessimistic pirate, and he trusts nobody. Secrecy is the motto of Baroque works. Everyone and their grandmother has a codename and is to keep anonymity, even towards other members. The purpose of this is purely practical, but it is primarily to ensure Mr. Zero remains anonymous and safe from all suspicion. By keeping his public image squeaky clean, he could destroy the trust between the royalty and the people of Alabasta in order to wear down both sides, all while appearing neutral. He would keep risks to a minimum in all respects, constantly having backups for his plans, in both big ways and small. And even King Cobra didn't suspect Crocodile for inciting the war because he trusted the government's stamp of approval too much. Crocodile illustrates the benefits of mistrust while abusing the weaknesses trust can create. He's one of the smartest men you'll ever meet. But in keeping this security, he failed to gain the benefits trust and loyalty could give. For starters, he doesn't know his subordinates that well. He couldn't even recognize that Sanji was impersonating Mr. 3 on Little Garden, because he's not actually familiar with Mr. 3. Unlike Vivi, who could see through Bon Clee's disguise despite it being physically perfect. Knowing your allies as much as possible can't be done through Transponder Snail. This is undoubtedly a flaw in his leadership and his organization as a whole. It was for this very reason that Vivi was able to sneak in and infiltrate Baroque Works in the first place. And Crocodile's closest partner, Miss All Sunday, was someone he never understood. And she was as distrustful of him as he was at the time, only confident he wouldn't kill her as long as she could do things he couldn't. Both of them just waiting for a chance to stab each other in the back. And she aided the Straw Hats out of her personal interests. From the top brass to the lower rung, there's next to no camaraderie in this organization, the only exceptions being the members Vivi met and befriended. Would any member of Baroque Works stick with Crocodile if he failed? If he was captured, would any of them come running to his rescue? Mr. 2 certainly had opportunities to do so, but didn't. Could any of the agents push past their limits and tough it out for the sake of their faceless leader's dream? The rest of Baroque Works may as well be strangers who happen to work at the same organization, and not a true team. Crocodile is a charismatic man, and he excels at leading others and cooking up schemes. But that charisma can go to waste when hidden behind an alias. Which is why I'm so excited to see how Crossguild will be used in the story. A sly, untrusting mastermind, the world's strongest antisocial loner, and a clown whose only talents are relying on others and getting people to love him, are now crammed together under the same flag. In a way, all three of them are giving the others what they lack: intelligence, individual strength, and a very passionate army. Like seriously, Crossguild's like the most hyped thing that this manga has done in years. Ever, maybe. And on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we have Vivi Nefertari. Vivi's obvious character flaw that Luffy spells out for us is that she values her friends too much over herself. She's the exact opposite of Crocodile. He would throw everything away if it suited him, but she couldn't bring herself to throw away a single life besides herself. But it's where this flaw comes from that I find most interesting about Vivi. Vivi doesn't want her position as princess separating her from others. There are many examples of her quietly smiling to herself because she's just happy to be involved in the Straw Hats' antics. And Cobra was happy that Vivi wanted to be more than Alabasta's princess. She wanted to be on the same level of Alabasta's people. And she hates it when her position puts others in danger. And this fear results in her being all too willing to hurt herself before asking others to be hurt. A mindset Luffy has to beat out of her. Despite her not wanting her position to alienate herself, she gave herself a lonely role in trying to fight Crocodile. Vivi's want to be closer with the people she rules feeds into the other threads the story has woven, such as Dalton questioning status to begin with, and with the far more recent development of the Nefertari family refusing to live in Marijoa along with the other celestial dragons. They favored living alongside the people, it seems, a mindset that was obviously passed down the royal family and eventually to Vivi. And with that barrier of status removed, the trust people have in their leaders grows that much deeper. Alongside Vivi, Luffy also contrasts Crocodile in a lot of ways. Most obviously in his determination to protect his friends. And that mindset puts him closer to becoming Pirate King than Crocodile ever could. Nothing and nobody is sacred to Crocodile, but Luffy will value his crew not just for his personal attachment, but because he knows he can't achieve his dreams without them. He gives them the respect they're due and acknowledges their talents and appreciates their individual dreams. Where Crocodile can only see disposable tools, they might as well remain anonymous, it's not like he cares. But if you keep throwing your subordinates away, you can quickly run out. Crocodile understands that he needs the help of others, but is too paranoid to consider other people trustworthy. Like, think about it, if Crocodile gave Mr. 3 another chance, that's another strong man on his team. Like, he's not like weak or anything, like he's a very useful guy and he could have tipped the scales. Or even maybe more importantly, if he had a real trusting relationship and partnership with Robin, they could have 2v1 Luffy at the end and he would have won guaranteed.
You might be strong, Straw Hat, but I have my friend with me. Yahar.
Luffy and Crocodile also contrast each other in many other ways. My favorite being Crocodile's insistence that his experienced and jaded perspective is something Luffy's idealism should be flattened into if he wants to survive the Grand Line. But this video is about friendship, so let's talk about how other characters in Alabasta illustrate that. Crocodile's underlings further explore this idea, most obviously through Mr. 2, Bon Clay, my man. A duplicitous doppelganger whose exact job in Crocodile's master plan is to sow mistrust between the king and the people through impersonation. And the threat he poses against the Straw Hats is one that can abuse their trust in each other. But in stark contrast to the organization he works for, Bon Clay takes friendship very seriously, even ending the arc by doing his buddies a huge solid. And from this point on, Bon Clay represents the idea that friendship can be powerful, even in between people who don't spend a lot of time together. And it doesn't just apply to him, it applies to Vivi and Karu, and all the other friends the crew meets along the way. Even in a few short hours, a bond can be formed between two people. And while it might be unrealistic to become ride or die best buds with someone you just met, the sentiment is still very much true, I feel. I work in construction, and since starting full-time, I've been to about 10 different job sites and have spent time in trade school. I met many different people, some of whom I would only know for a couple weeks or a couple days even, either because I was transferred again or because my coworkers were transferred themselves. But I find it's really important to make the most out of the situation and make friends wherever you go. It makes life more fun when you always have someone to talk to over lunch. And when you see a familiar face that you haven't talked to in months, or even years, it can be such a pleasant surprise. And Bon Clay captures that feeling and romanticizes it so well. Which is sadly why he can't ever join the crew, even if it would be awesome. And considering how often characters will come back after hundreds of chapters, it's only natural that One Piece would like to say this out loud for everyone to remember. Even if they weren't here for a very long time, you can still be happy to see them again. Now let's talk about anime battles. Mr. 1 even helps develop this idea in the most stereotypically shonen way possible, by giving Zoro a friendship power-up. And yes, friendship power-ups can be done well, believe it or not. I've seen it done well in Dragon Ball, Naruto, Orient, Eden Zero, Sonic Heroes, and yes, even Fairy Tail, and so much more. But I feel like that last one, Fairy Tail, ended up giving the whole friendship power-up thing a bad reputation. But I got some news for ya. Hating friendship is cringe and makes you sound like a loser who has none. There's nothing wrong with thinking it's uninteresting, it's a very simple idea after all. But you don't have to find some excuse or some problem with something to justify your feelings. But feel free to do so, me and my buds love laughing at bad YouTube analysis.
He's written so poorly by Hiro Mashima to where even someone like Natsu...
It's almost like it was intentional!
Dude, Mashima's such a bad author that Natsu was able to point out his villain was wrong.
Wow, is Natsu smarter than Mashima?
So anyway, we all remember this fight, so if you want a more detailed breakdown of this fight specifically, I recommend this video by Krasdorf. Or better yet, go back and read it yourself. But to break it down, both Zoro and Mr. 1 strive to be strong. Both strive to be able to cut down everything and everyone in their path. But as long as Zoro keeps the mindset of destroying and cutting everything, and stays on the same level as Mr. 1 and even Crocodile who would sacrifice everything, he will lose. So he has to learn to cut nothing. And to not cut something is a clear metaphor for protecting something. for finding something precious and understanding that you must not let that thing be cut, like your best buddies. And with this extra motivation, Zoro is able to reach new heights as a swordsman. Mr. One even asks if Zoro will move on to cutting diamonds, and Zoro responds that it would be a waste, ending the fight with another supporting metaphor. When people ask what changed Zoro in between this scene,
俺が野望を断念するような羽目になったらその時は腹を切って俺に詫びろ
and this scene,
ただし身代わりのこの俺の命一つで
this fight should spring to mind, because it's when Zoro began to realize how much this crew meant to him, and what his responsibilities as their ace swordsman are. At this point, Zoro's main dynamics with the other Straw Hats have been established, and they've been through enough antics together to grow comfortable and even fond of each other. So this was the perfect time for Zoro to have this fight. All the other fights against Baroque works similarly have the Straw Hats think of their friends. Zoro is just the only one who gains a new ability doing so. This isn't original or even specific to this arc. The Straw Hats are constantly being motivated by one another in their fights. But this is the first time Zoro's fight is explicitly about his relationship with the crew, and not just about swordsmanship. Friendship and trust being good might be simple and straightforward, especially compared to inherited will, death and mourning, justice, racism and slavery, systemic injustice, what it means to be a great leader, history and the passage of time. But even accounting for all of that, I don't believe Alabasta to be thematically weaker than any of these later arcs. And because this is the first major arc of the story, it was important for it to build its foundation, which at its core is the Straw Hats and their friendship as a crew. No matter how big and epic the scale of the final saga gets, always remember that this gang here is the most important one. And even disregarding that, our main character Luffy is a man who stands up for the friends he meets along the way, and takes on their hopes when they both agree someone needs an ass whooping. He does what he does for his ambitions and for the people he cares about. Because not only do you need others to survive on the Grand Line, but the adventure wouldn't be worth the time if you were doing it alone. Even if you can't carry every friend through to the end, their thoughts can still be with you. Thank you all for watching. Like and sub if you want to see more. And I'll see ya in the